What if, one fine day, you're the worst student in school and you're forced to try and win over a cold, academically brilliant guy? Even crazier, the person forcing you to do it is your own son from the future. The story is that Man Than, living a comfortable life in 2051, suddenly finds himself transported back 30 years in time. The purpose of this unexpected trip is to find his mother in her rebellious youth, the fate of a domineering, academically failing female student, in order to change her destiny and prevent her from offending her teacher. The target he wants his mother to win over is Hao Nam, the school's top student with an academic record that has never dropped below first place. The story begins one evening after school. Man Tin takes a shortcut home and discovers someone is following her. Being naturally mischievous, she plans to take the opportunity to ambush and rob him. She promises to spare his life if he gives her money, but she doesn't know that the person secretly following her is her future son. Seeing his mother about to take action, Man Than quickly took out the bear-shaped brooch, a keepsake, to prove his identity. After a while of arguing, the two finally sat down to talk. Man Than began his presentation about his background. He said he came from the year 2051. Hearing this, Man Tin could only laugh, thinking this guy had a problem with his brain. She thanked him and tried to leave quickly, but her smile vanished when Man Than rattled off her bizarre habits. From her parents' divorce to her habit of picking her nose with her thumb, still not believing him, she made him take a picture to check with a lie detector. The result showed a 100% match. Finally, a DNA test result sealed the deal. Man Tin was utterly bewildered to learn that she officially had a son who had fallen from the sky. Man Tin, curious about the future, received a cold shower. Her son predicted that she would go bankrupt, be ostracized by everyone, and leave the earth at the age of 47. It's hair-raising to hear. To save this tragic life, Man Than issued an ultimatum. Mom must win over Dad immediately. And that powerful father is none other than Hao Nam. Hearing the name Hao Nam, Man Than felt like she was struck by lightning. I remember 3 days ago when she was secretly grilling delicious squid behind the school, Hao Nam passed by, thought the house was on fire, and enthusiastically sprayed her with a water hose, soaking her completely. As a result, Man Tin was punished by the head teacher with running 5 laps around the field and had to recite fire safety regulations. The troubles didn't end there. Man Tin volunteered to print banners to atone for her mistakes, but unexpectedly tripped over Hao Nam's foot and hit her head on a tree trunk, resulting in a swollen bump. Even worse, she fell flat on her face right behind him on the soccer field. Luckily, her senior, Van Zhang, helped her up. At this point, Man Tin confirmed that Hao Nam was the jinx of her life. Anyone who got involved with him would be cursed, so she preferred to stay away. But what you hate, fate gives you. While buying fake autographs, Man Tin ran into Hao Nam again, who was researching time travel. She sneered contemptuously and went home. But the climax of Sakakana was when Man Tin opened the USB to check the banner. Instead of the idle dance slogan, it showed the words "Learn with all your might." It turned out she had taken the wrong USB at the printing shop. Panicked, she rushed to school to get it back, but the shop owner had already delivered it, leaving her with no choice. Man Tin sneaked into the teacher's office to steal the evidence. Unexpectedly, she was caught red-handed. Hao Nam was also rummaging through the documents inside. Just then, the lights came on, and to make matters worse, the homeroom teacher burst in and caught them both in the act. Teacher Go Ko added another charge: skipping class, stealing documents, and a combination of offenses. Despite Man Tin's vehement arguments that this idiot wasn't her type, and Hao Nam's attempts to prove his innocence, the result was still 2 lengthy disciplinary reports to be submitted before the end of school. When Man Tin saw the shop owner printing them, she happily retrieved her banner. But when Man Tin turned around, she saw Hao Nam. She was startled and threw the banner away. He quickly grabbed it. Unexpectedly, at this moment, the whole school witnessed the love Man Tin had for her idol. In the office, Man Tin asked to copy Hao Nam's self-criticism report. When she saw the head teacher enter, she immediately stole Hao Nam's credit. When the head teacher saw the words "I was wrongly accused," he angrily made Man Tin write twice the amount of text. It turned out she had mistakenly taken Hao Nam's draft paper. That night, Man Tin followed Hao Nam. She discovered he went to a restaurant. Van Zhang saw Man Tin but didn't have time to call out to her. He thought she liked Hao Nam, so Van Zhang advised him not to torment Man Tin anymore. Man Tin pretended to be a staff member to pull Van Zhang away. When he heard the staff member looking for a uniform, he quickly took off his shirt to cover Man Tin. When Hao Nam went to the restroom, he caught Man Tin acting intimately with Van Zhang. But before she could explain herself, she was accused of stealing the uniform by the restaurant staff. Because every time Man Tin met Hao Nam, she encountered bad luck, she resolutely refused to pursue him. At this moment, the test results confirmed that Man Tin was indeed born in Man Than. The next morning, Man Tin decided to skip class to study on her own. Unexpectedly, dozens of alarm clocks appeared on the table, forcing her to wake up. Meanwhile, Man Than was queuing to buy tofu pudding for his mother. He recalled that when his mother was ill, she only remembered the taste of the tofu pudding near their house. Man Than finally fulfilled his mother's wish. At this moment, the ring on his hand announced that it had detected the target it was looking for. It turned out that nearby, Hao Nam was exposing a fraudulent man. Man Than wanted to strike up a conversation and immediately guessed that Hao Nam liked reading Japanese books on superspace, because Man Than also believed that humans could travel through time. Sure enough, Hao Nam was very enthusiastic about talking to this person. He even proactively added the other person as a WeChat friend. Man Than believed that in the not-too-distant future, Hao Nam would become a great scientist. Man Than secretly greeted Hao Nam as professor, because he was Hao Nam's future student. Man Than went home and urged his mother to eat tofu pudding quickly. Man Tin pinched his cheek and realized he wasn't dreaming. Man Than knew she was allergic to lac, so he took the opportunity to withdraw money from a savings box. Because Man Cheng had no money in this era, he looked at Man Cheng sulking and went back to sleep. Man Cheng predicted that soon there would be drilling sounds and a water outage. Man Cheng didn't believe it. Until she heard the noise upstairs, she rushed to the bathroom and found that the water had been cut off. Man Cheng revealed that the neighborhood had posted a notice about the water cut half a month ago, but Man Cheng had prepared warm water for his mother to wash her face. The more he looked in the mirror, the more he resembled his mother. When Man Cheng followed Man Cheng to school, he urged her to open WeChat. It turned out that when Hao Nan asked for Man Cheng's WeChat, he gave him Man Cheng's username. When Man Cheng heard Man Cheng wanted to call a taxi to school, he immediately told her to save money by taking the bus. Unexpectedly, it started raining heavily at that moment. When Man Than saw Hao Nam approaching, he immediately snatched Man Tin's umbrella to go home first. When Man Tin saw Hao Nam's figure appear in the rain, she knew she wasn't going to school in the rain. Hao Nam gently gave his umbrella to Man Tin because he wasn't used to sharing things with others. Hao Nam was still engrossed in reading a science book. When Hao Nam saw Man Tin drop a phone, he immediately turned back to pick it up for her. This kind act made her agree to be his friend. But Hao Nam thought it was Man Than's WeChat, so he proactively messaged Han. At that moment, Man Tin had her clothespin confiscated by the supervisor for violating school rules. During recess, Man Tin secretly went back to retrieve her clothespin. But Hao Nan witnessed this scene. He concluded that she had committed theft again. Just then, the head teacher walked in. Seeing this, Man Cheng quickly hid under the table. The head teacher commented that although Hao Nan was still ranked first, his score was lower than before. When the head teacher discovered Man Cheng under the table, he immediately kicked the two out. Man Tin scolded Hao Nam for exposing her in front of the head teacher. Just then, a girl asked Hao Nam to go to the movies, but he flatly refused the invitation. Man Tin sat on the small bridge reading Hao Nam's messages. In the message, he wondered how humans would resolve the issue of karma if they could travel back in time. Man Tin intended to text back, but she was startled and dropped her phone on her forehead. Man Tin held Hao Nam responsible for his sudden appearance. Unexpectedly, Hao Nam leaned down close to her and said that he agreed to take responsibility for her. This action moved a young woman like Man Tin. Afterwards, Hao Nam took Man Tin into the laboratory. He made ice so she could put it on her forehead. After finishing, he urged her to leave quickly. Meanwhile, Man Cheng kept giving orders to the household appliances. He guessed that at this time, artificial intelligence was not yet very developed. Just then, the ring announced that another target was at Qingcheng No 1 High School. Man Cheng had no money, so he had to run to the school. Man Cheng introduced himself as Ma Xing's cousin. He instructed the security guard not to let students from other schools into the school. The security guard then urged Wen Jiang to leave, because the school prohibited students from other schools from practicing ball during class time. When Man Tin returned home, she found the floor soaking wet. She angrily scolded Man Fan, but unexpectedly, her father had returned. He reprimanded his daughter for being messy and for not answering his calls. Man Tin feared her father would confront Man Fan, so she quickly pulled him outside. Just then, Man Fan returned. He blurted out that he was calling Man Tin's father Grandpa. Man Fan quickly explained that he was giving Man Tin a public foreign language tutoring session. She said she was busy having dinner with her grandmother, so she cancelled her class today. When Man Tin went to visit her relatives, she heard her grandmother only caring about her cousins. Only her father served Man Tin food, but he didn't even remember that his daughter was allergic to peanuts. When her grandmother saw Man Tin throwing away peanuts, she scolded her for wasting food. Man Tin tried to suppress her feelings and stuffed the entire handful of peanuts into her mouth. Sure enough, after a while, she felt itchy all over. When Man Fan saw his mother's red rash, he guessed that she had just eaten peanuts. Man Tin didn't expect that only someone who didn't belong to this world would remember that she was allergic to peanuts. Man Tin admitted that she wasn't mentally prepared to be a mother, but Man Fan comforted her. He believed that Man Tin would become a very wonderful mother. Then Man Fan took his mother to buy medicine and then went to self-study class. When Man Tin returned to school, she caught Hao Nam hiding through the bars. He went to the abandoned building next to the school to study physics. When Man Tin saw the flash of electricity, she rushed to protect Hao Nam. He told her he was conducting an experiment. Man Tin stood up in confusion just as the experiment exploded. This time it was Hao Nam's turn to hug her tightly. Then he took her to the hospital. Man Fan ran over and, seeing someone with severe burns, mistook her for his mother. Man Fan scolds Hao Nam for not protecting Man Tin, unexpectedly finding that she is still healthy and defending her best friend, Chu Lin. Man Fan recognizes this as the chubby person who often comes to visit him. But he didn't expect Chu Lin to be so thin at times. Man Fan quickly pulls Chu Lin aside to give Man Tin a chance to be alone with Hao Nam. She asks Hao Nam if he wants to take her home. When Man Tin arrived home, she heard Man Fan announce that he had prepared a plan to pursue Hao Nam. Man Fan likened wooing his son to solving a problem, so Man Tin had to try to hug Liang Zi and concentrate on quantum harmony. Man Tin guessed that her son couldn't possibly have a girlfriend. She summarized that the pursuit was about making herself feel important in the other person's heart. The next day, Man Tin waited for Hao Nam outside the school gate. She wanted to walk into the school with him in front of everyone. Hao Nam calculated the time and speed of Man Tin's footsteps and reminded her that if she didn't hurry, she would be late for class. When Man Tin arrived at the cafeteria, she pretended to accidentally run into Hao Nam, but he only cared about her missing hair. He reminded Man Tin that she should go see a doctor. When Hao Nam saw Man Tin standing in front of Nam's bathroom door, he immediately covered her mouth. Because in this world, only Man Tin would be so tactless as to wait for her son to use the toilet. Man Tin gave Hao Nam water to replenish the minerals he had just excreted. That evening, when Man Tin returned home, she looked at her son and noticed that he didn't resemble Hao Nam at all. Man Tin suspected that Man Fan had deceived her about her future husband. But he immediately denied it. Man Cheng advised his mother to be happy, and she should sacrifice herself to help Hao Nan at this crucial moment. As the college entrance exam approached, the head teacher was disheartened by Man Cheng's poor performance. He suspected that his student had not been careful with her work. However, Man Tin said that she didn't know how to do the assignment. The head teacher decided to call Hao Nam in and ask him to organize tutoring for the students in the advanced class. Taking this opportunity, Man Tin asked the teacher to let Hao Nam help her with tutoring, but the head teacher told her to go home and wait for the announcement. Since there was no tutoring plan for the regular class, Man Tin ran to the tree intending to ask Hao Nam for help with her homework, but he didn't wait for her to speak before reading out the answers. He knew that she wouldn't be able to do the first question, but Man Tin only listened to the answer to the first question, and then she arranged to come back tomorrow to ask for help again. In the next class, Man Tin went to the advanced class and asked Hao Nam to fill out the information form to exchange it. She wouldn't bother him for 4 days. Hao Nam smiled helplessly when she even asked for his shoe size. Man Tin went to see her father to inform him that he had to attend a parent-teacher meeting tomorrow. Man Tin's father promised to be there on time. Then he gave his daughter a stack of money and told her to go home first. Man Tin took the money and went outside to sit huddled in a corner. Coincidentally, Hao Nan passed by and saw her. He asked if she was feeling unwell. Man Xingyu said she was very hungry, so Hao Nan had to tell her grandmother to eat first. He took Man Xing to the grocery store. She admired Hao Nan because he had someone to attend the parent-teacher meeting for her. When Man Xing saw a happy family passing by, her eyes filled with despair. At that moment, she really missed her mother. Sure enough, the next day Man Xing's father didn't come to the parent-teacher meeting. However, Man Than unexpectedly appeared and introduced himself as Man Tin's cousin. It turned out that Hao Nam had messaged Man Than to remind him that when the teacher met privately with Man Tin's parents, she knew the family planned to send her abroad. Man Than thought that happiness was more important than academic achievement, but he didn't want Man Tin to neglect her studies. Man Than believes she can get into a good university. Man Tin praises her son for being so cool. She doesn't know who he learned this from. Man Than likes to remember his childhood. His mother always trusted him even when he made mistakes. Man Tin always believes that family is a place where people love and trust each other unconditionally. Man Tin was secretly pleased to have such a good son. When she saw Hao Nam helping someone with a fallen bicycle, she realized he was perfect in both academics and morals. Since then, Man Tin frequently asked Hao Nam for help with her studies. Thanks to this, for the first time, she didn't have to guess the answers randomly in the final exam. During the Lunar New Year holiday, Man Tin went to call Hao Nam. He used the excuse of throwing away trash to ask his father for permission to go out. Man Tin gave Hao Nam a pair of sneakers as a gift. Unexpectedly, the questions he had explained to her were all on the exam. Afterwards, Hao Nan gave Man Xing a photocopy of his notes. She also prepared fireworks to celebrate the Lunar New Year with him. Man Xing's radiant smile made Hao Nan's lips unconsciously curve into a smile. He wondered if this was the beginning of a quantum entanglement where two strangers were drawn into each other's orbits. When she returned to school, Man Tin couldn't find her name at the bottom of the rankings. She didn't expect to be ranked 156th. When Hao Nam heard others suspecting Man Tin of cheating, he reminded them to be careful with their words. As soon as Man Tin got home, she shared the good news with her son. Man Tin praised her mother for making great progress, so the two of them decided to hold a celebratory feast. Just then, Van Zhang called Man Tin. He arranged to meet her at the restaurant they had been to the other day at noon the next day. When Man Tin arrived at the meeting place, she waited for a long time but Van Zhang didn't show up. Man Tin called him and learned that he was busy practicing basketball. Man Tin criticized him for lacking basic respect, saying that even if he was busy, he should have informed her beforehand. Finally, Man Tin had to pack her food to take back to school. She happened to meet Hao Nam waiting outside the gate. Man Tin invited Hao Nam to eat with her, but he said the homeroom teacher was waiting for her in the office. When Man Tin saw the homeroom teacher reading her exam paper, she realized that she was actually quite intelligent. However, the homeroom teacher suspected Man Tin of cheating because her last answer was exactly the same as the answer given by the student sitting next to her. And that student had a top 3 ranking in the entire grade. Man Tin wondered why the homeroom teacher only called her in for questioning. As soon as Man Tin went outside, she met Hao Nam. She angrily asked, "Do students with poor grades have to cheat to get high scores?" Man Cheng had prepared a hot meal while waiting for her mother to come home, but Man Cheng was so upset she cried because she felt that students with poor grades didn't deserve to eat. No matter how hard Man Cheng tried, she always ranked last in the eyes of her friends and teachers. Man Cheng thought that people couldn't change other people's minds in an instant, but they could do their own work well. Just then, there was a knock on the door, and Man Cheng quickly hid inside. It turned out that Xiao Man, one of the top 3 students in the class, had come to Man Xing's house to apologize because she was under so much pressure that she secretly copied Man Xing's last sentence. Xiao Man recounted that Hao Nan had confronted her earlier, and she had told the truth to the head teacher. She only asked Man Xing not to tell anyone about this. The next day, Man Xing offered Hao Nan a chicken leg. He refused because chicken legs contain a lot of cholesterol. Man Xing thanked Hao Nan for clearing her name and invited him to dinner. Without waiting for Hao Nan's agreement, Man Xing arranged to meet him the next day at the Mountain and Sea restaurant. The next day, Man Than heard his mother complaining that Hao Nam hadn't shown up for their date. He remembered that it wasn't even time for the appointment yet. Man Than said that she had scheduled the meeting for 7:0 am, and she had gotten up early to prepare. Man Than was very confused by this. He didn't know why Man Tin had scheduled the meeting so early in the morning. Man Tin realized that she had only said 7 am and forgotten that it wasn't morning yet. Sure enough, Hao Nam had thought she had scheduled the meeting for 7:0 p.m. Man Tin apologized for being half an hour late. She discovered that Hao Nam was very trustworthy. He was completely unlike Van Zhang. When Man Tin heard that the restaurant had been booked for the whole evening, she immediately called her son for help. Man Than told his mother to seize this opportunity. She had to showcase her cooking talent to win over Hao Nam. Man Than knew his mother couldn't distinguish between onions and garlic, so Man Tin only needed to bring Hao Nam back to her house. This was Hao Nam's first time in Man Tin's house. He was surprised to see the physics instruments on the table. Man Tin said that in her free time she often studied quantum mechanics and dynamics. She invited Hao Nam to sit down so she could cook some delicious dishes. Man Than blamed his mother for not telling him in advance, so he hadn't had time to leave the house. He quietly slipped down to the floor to retreat safely. When Hao Nam saw Man Tin bringing out 5 dishes, he immediately guessed that she had ordered takeout. Man Tin clarified that she had personally cooked for him. She had lived alone since childhood, so she had to practice her cooking skills. When Hao Nan saw Man Xing eating a very large bowl of rice, he immediately felt that she was not what he had imagined. Man Xing excitedly listened to the compliment, but unexpectedly, he criticized her for eating too much. It wasn't until late at night that Man Xing dared to go home. When he saw his mother setting aside a portion of rice for him, he felt warm inside. Man Tin told Man Than that Hao Nam had praised her cooking and said he would apply to Chengnan University. Man Than guessed that Hao Nam wanted a long-term relationship with Man Tin, which is why he revealed his future plans. Although Man Tin seemed unconvinced, for the first time she proactively sat down at her study desk. She wanted to catch up with Hao Nan's achievements, and she also wanted to strive for a better future. For 100 days before the college entrance exam, Man Xing studied late every day. She often asked Hao Nan for help with her questions, and Man Xing gradually became more confident in the mock exams. Finally, the college entrance exam was over. Man Tin wore a mask because she was afraid she wouldn't get into the university. Man Tin accidentally bumped into Hao Nam's chest. She heard him greet her as a classmate. Hearing this, Man Tin happily shouted because she had been accepted into university. At the graduation ceremony, Man Tin was chosen to give a speech because she had worked so hard in the university entrance exam. Man Tin thought Hao Nam was stressed, so she showed him how to relax. But when the head teacher invited them to the stage, Hao Nam immediately took Man Tin's hand and walked up. She read the draft that Man Than had written, which included a thank you to Hao Nam for giving her courage and faith in her own efforts. When Hao Nam saw Man Tin looking confused, he finished the rest of the text for her. As Man Tin stepped off the stage, she carelessly stumbled and fell, but Hao Nam quickly grabbed her hand. Both of them were so tense that they couldn't utter a word. When Man Tin got home, she couldn't stop thinking about the moment she touched Hao Nam's hand. She resolved to work even harder to become as excellent as him. On this side, Hao Nan also believed that Man Xing could always achieve what she desired. Early the next morning, Man Xing woke his mother up to go to the opening ceremony. He made her promise to work hard to escape the bottom of the class rankings. In addition, Man Xing had to pursue Hao Nan diligently. At the same time, she had to stay away from all the other seniors. Then, Man Xing gave Man Xing milk. Taking advantage of the opportunity, he made her sign 3 agreements. To relive his childhood, Man Than wanted to wait for his mother to go to school on her bicycle. And those happy moments would never be forgotten. When Man Than met Hao Nam on the road, he pretended his bicycle chain had come off, so he pushed Man Tin onto Hao Nam's bicycle. Man Xing also reminded her of their promise. When Hao Nan saw Man Xing wearing a dress, he lent her his shirt to cover her legs. Hao Nan thought the road was quite smooth, so Man Xing didn't need to hug him so tightly. When the two arrived at the university, Man Xing asked Hao Nan to go for a walk, but he refused. He urged her to quickly go and check into her dorm room. Xiao Xiao realized that Man Xing was a roommate, so she immediately dragged Man Xing to carry fertilizer to plant flowers in the dorm. When Wen Jiang saw Man Xing, he ran over to help, but she remembered her promise to Man Cheng, so she had to carry the bags of fertilizer alone. Xiao Xiao was not impressed by Man Xing's strength. When Man Tin was carrying a bag of fertilizer, she accidentally spilled some on a passerby. But the beautiful girl wasn't angry at all. When Man Tin returned to the dormitory, she met 2 more roommates. Their names were Jing and Fang Lin. Man Tin suggested they become sworn sisters. Although they weren't born on the same day or month, They hoped to graduate in the same year. For people used a jar of salted meat to make their vows, but unexpectedly it emitted an unbearable stench. When Man Tin learned that Hao Nam was looking for someone, she immediately ran down to meet him. But Man Tin noticed her clothes smelled bad, so she ran back upstairs to change. Unexpectedly, Hao Nam found an acquaintance named Vu Tin to give her some things. By the time Man Tin ran down, she couldn't find Hao Nam anymore. Man Tin called her son to complain that Hao Nam didn't give her a chance to pursue him. Man Than hoped her mother would cheer up and not forget the promise between them. Just then, Van Zhang arrived to help Man Tin pick up some documents, but she wouldn't let him touch them. Man Tin pulled him aside to a secluded spot for fear of Man Than finding out. Van Zhang said that today was his birthday, so he wanted to go to the masquerade ball with Man Tin to welcome the new students. Man Tin thought that if she wore a mask, Man Than would definitely not recognize her. On this side, Vu Tin had also invited Hao Nam to the masquerade ball, but he found it very boring and wanted to go back to his room to read. Just then, Hao Nam received a distress message from Ma Tin, so he quickly borrowed Vu Tin's masquerade ball ticket. Meanwhile, Man Tin gave Wen Jiang a birthday gift. He thanked her and asked permission to go on stage to dance. When Man Tin met Hao Nam at the ball, she immediately criticized him for wearing inappropriate clothes. Hao Nam asked Man Tin if she was injured anywhere that she had sent him an email asking for help. Man Tin quickly looked around and saw her son's eyes. She quickly returned the mask and pulled Hao Nam to run away. When the two arrived at the school's convenience store, Man Tin tried to show off her skills by crawling through the glass door. Hao Nam thought she didn't need to because the door was still open, so he scanned the code to pay, while she happily enjoyed the fun of the evening. Unexpectedly, Man Tin accidentally poured cold water into the instant noodles, so Hao Nam had to let her eat his bowl of noodles. When Hao Nam returned to the dormitory, he saw his friends playing games in the dark. He remembered Man Tin's advice that he should descend to the mortal world to experience the joys of humanity. So, Hao Nam immediately asked his friends how to register a game account. The next day, Man Tin discovered that Wen Jiang was selling her birthday presents, so she angrily went to confront him. She also accidentally caught him throwing away his basketball club application. A while later, Man Tin waited for Wen Jiang downstairs and advised him, "You shouldn't be so selfish." Then, Man Tin returned to the dormitory. She wanted to ask her friends for help. She pretended to be heartbroken because she couldn't win Hao Nan's heart. Sure enough, her friends took pity on her. 3 friends are determined to help Man Tin woo Hao Nam. To buy Man Tin time to put on makeup, Kiao deliberately blocks Hao Nam's path. She waits until Man Tin arrives before safely retreating. Man Tin pretends to accidentally pass by to invite Hao Nam to class together. He criticizes her for being childish, but he still gives her his shirt. When she arrives at class, Man Tin secretly thanks her best friend for saving her a seat. Xiao Xiao also helped prepare an energy-rich breakfast for Hao Nan. He urged her to eat quickly so as not to affect her studies. When Man Xing visited Man Cheng, she sat and listened to him analyze the progress of their relationship. Man Cheng praised the high increase in interaction data between Hao Nan and Man Xing. However, Hao Nan's response rate was 0. Man Tin criticizes Hao Nam for being very unapproachable. Man Than encourages his mother not to give up, because Hao Nam has shown more interest in her. When Man Than picks Man Tin up from school, he reads the announcement about the physics seminar. Man Tin feels that her son is like his father because both of them are passionate about science. Man Tin feels that she can never win Hao Nam over. Not knowing how she would have children with him in the future, Man Tin guessed that technology would develop, so she would hire a programmer to make Hao Nam fall in love with her. But Man Than pulled Man Tin out of her daydreams and reminded her of the 3 things in the agreement. In her dream, Man Tin saw herself holding Hao Nam's hand, but she was busy collecting seashells while he walked towards the vast ocean. Man Than saw Man Tin having a nightmare and immediately rushed to comfort his mother. Man Tin asked her son when she and Hao Nam would become a couple, and why Hao Nam loved her, but Man Than didn't know because those things had happened before he was born. Man Than only remembered that Man Tin's rival was about to appear. After hearing Man Than's warning, Man Tin always shielded Hao Nam. She doesn't give any girl a chance to approach her future husband. Man Tin noticed that too many girls were appearing around Hao Nam, so she asked her friends to help keep an eye on him. When Man Tin saw Hao Nam actively rejecting others, she decided to become his only exception. But as soon as Man Tin finished speaking, her real rival appeared. Man Tin told her son about this. Wu Qing not only studied with Hao Nan but was also his childhood friend. Wu Qing even stayed at Hao Nan's grandmother's house to make it easier to go to school. Man Fan believed that the principle of invincibility in the world was to demoralize the enemy. When Man Fan attended a physics seminar, he asked to present his views on spacetime. When the professor learned that he had graduated from university, he immediately invited Man Fan to volunteer for science popularization. Man Tin listened to her son and proactively got to know Vu Tin. She kept praising Vu Tin's beauty. Man Tin even followed her to meet Hao Nam. Vu Tin guessed that Man Tin liked Hao Nam. But why did she have to follow Wu Qing? Man Qing pretended not to know anything. Then she praised Wu Qing's beauty. Wu Qing went into the laboratory to meet Hao Nan, and sure enough, she managed to shake off the persistent stalker. Man Qing complained to her son that she couldn't enter the laboratory, but unexpectedly, Man Cheng appeared, and he was free to come and go from there. The professor introduced Man Cheng as a volunteer, and also as a former outstanding student who graduated from Chengnan University. Man Cheng helped his mother prevent Yu Qing from approaching Hao Nan. After Man Cheng went out to meet his mother, he reported that he had stopped Yu Qing 12 times when she tried to talk to Hao Nan and 6 times when Yu Qing got close to him. In addition, Man Cheng could bring his mother to the lab's welcome party. At the party, a member of the organization initiated a finger-folding game. Whoever was correctly identified had to fold one finger, and whoever folded all their fingers first had to be punished. Wu Qing asked who had known the person sitting there for more than 10 years. Hao Nan asked who didn't know the third law of thermodynamics. Then it was Man Cheng's turn. She made those who had never taken the test suddenly fold their fingers. Man Cheng saw that his mother only had one finger left, so he said, "Whoever likes someone sitting here should fold their finger." Man Xing agreed, but she was disappointed that Hao Nan didn't fold his finger. Man Xing had to endure the punishment of revealing that she was Man Cheng's mother. Everyone didn't believe it, so she frankly said that she liked Hao Nan. But everyone knew this, so they asked Man Tin to drink. Hao Nam unexpectedly raised his glass, using thirst as an excuse to drink instead of Man Tin. She smiled happily at his action. When Man Tin saw the jealous look in Yu Qing's eyes, she became even more smug. When Man Tin heard the intelligence that Hao Nam was on night duty at the laboratory, she went to bridge the gap with her future husband. Seeing Hao Nam asleep, Man Tin gently placed the invitation on the table. Man Tin wondered how Hao Nam's head, so small, could possibly hold all the words on the table. Just then, Hao Nam moved, and his lips accidentally touched Man Tin's. She stood up in embarrassment but unfortunately tripped and fell into his arms. Man Tin hurriedly left in embarrassment, while Hao Nam was still bewildered and surprised by the kiss. When Man Tin returned to the dormitory, she felt her face burning. When she heard Kiao Kiao mention the perfume called First Kiss, she reacted strangely. Young Lin shrewdly guessed that Man Tin was brimming with love. The next day, Man Fan invited everyone to lunch. But Man Tin and Hao Nam both made excuses about being busy. Man Fan met with Man Tin privately and asked her what exactly had happened with Hao Nam. But Man Tin avoided the question and wanted to go home for dinner. When Man Fan arrived at the lab, he had already invited Hao Nam to a physics group meeting. Because Man Fan knew Hao Nam didn't like noisy places, he asked his subordinate to take Man Tin back to his room to get her meal card. A friend next to her remembered that the school had announced a power outage, so Man Tin would definitely be afraid of the dark. When Man Tin went to get her meal card, she saw the hallway lights flickering, and suddenly a gust of wind blew the cloth, making her frightened. At that moment, the power went out. Man Tin, terrified, retreated into the biology lab. There, she saw a white skeleton and thought she had encountered a ghost from the school's scary legend when Hao Nam opened the door and turned on the light. He saw Man Tin huddled in the corner, so scared she couldn't stand up. So she asked Hao Nam to carry her back to the dormitory. The next day, Man Tin rushed into the laboratory. Man Fan pretended to go to the restroom to leave, but Hao Nam wanted to follow him. Man Tin guessed that Hao Nam was embarrassed, so she asked Man Fan to give him his jacket. Hao Nam discovered the strawberry-flavored lipstick in his jacket pocket, so he asked Man Fan to return it to Man Tin. Man Fan didn't want to be the one delivering the items, so he pushed Man Tin close to Hao Nam. Unexpectedly, Man Tin was so flustered that he ran away. Man Fan wondered how Hao Nam knew Man Tin used strawberry-flavored lipstick. Man Fan instructed her mother that while Hao Nam's heart was wavering, Man Tin should decisively seize him. When Man Tin and her friends discussed strategies to woo Hao Nam, young Lin helped Man Tin write a few flirtatious lines on social media. Sure enough, Hao Nam liked the post. Yin urged Man Xing to quickly ask him out for breakfast, but Hao Nan didn't accept the invitation. He used the excuse of being busy with other things to refuse. Young Lin advised Man Xing not to give up. She should continue to ask him out for lunch, but Hao Nan had a lot of schedules. He had to go to research a topic with his professor. Young Lin advised Man Xing to block Tang Hao Nan to see if he was really busy or just avoiding her. Early the next morning, Man Tin waited for Hao Nam in front of the dormitory, but Yu Qing had already appeared with him. She even greeted Hao Nam's grandmother on the phone. Man Tin intended to follow them, but at that moment, Wen Jiang arrived to explain the misunderstanding. They happened to eat at the same restaurant, so Man Tin couldn't concentrate on what Wen Jiang was saying. A male student came to apologize to Wen Jiang because he needed money and had sold Wen Jiang's ball. It turns out that Van Zhang hired him to help clear his name with Man Tin, but she didn't care about that. When Man Tin witnessed Vu Tin performing magic in front of Hao Nam, she angrily left. This made Hao Nam unable to sit still either. When Man Than saw Man Tin running around in the hot air, he asked her if she was preparing for the Olympics. Man Tin remembered that in romance dramas, the female protagonist often goes jogging when heartbroken. Man Than thought that Man Tin hadn't been in a relationship yet, so how could she say she was heartbroken instead of sulking? Man Tin should ask Hao Nam for clarification. Meanwhile, Hao Nam looked like he was in a daze. The professor, seeing his absent-mindedness, gave him a 5-minute break. Just then, Man Than texted Hao Nam to let him know that Man Tin's phone had run out of battery, so she arranged to meet Hao Nam at the Mountain and Sea restaurant. Hao Nam breathed a sigh of relief because she wasn't angry with him when Man Tin arrived at the meeting place beautifully dressed up, and she even prepared fresh flowers. However, Hao Nam rushed to find Vu Tin because he received a distress message from her. Wu Qing announced that she had chased away the stalker, and she had arranged a romantic outdoor dinner. Hao Nan clarified that he came here because he had promised to protect Wu Qing on behalf of his aunt, and if she was safe, Hao Nan would have to return to his own happiness. But while waiting, Man Xing plucked all the flower petals. Even so, Hao Nan still hadn't appeared. When Jiang happened to pass by and guessed that Man Xing had been abandoned by Hao Nan. When Van Zhang saw that she had a scratch on her leg, he immediately ran out to buy a pair of slippers for her. Hao Nam was unexpectedly busy and couldn't come. Van Zhang suggested that Man Tin go eat at another place to give up their table to pregnant women. When they arrived at their usual restaurant, Van Zhang ordered 2 portions of eel noodles. Man Tin, seeing eel noodles for the first time, was surprised at how delicious it was. Van Zhang recounted that his parents often argued, so he often sneaked here to eat noodles. Van Zhang blamed himself for not being capable enough to take his mother away from that terrible man. Man Tin thought it wasn't Van Zhang's fault and believed that he would definitely achieve what he wanted. Meanwhile, Hao Nam kicked open the dormitory door and staggered into the room. In his drunken state, he demanded that Man Tin return his first kiss. Then Hao Nam searched the room for the scent of strawberries. It turned out that Hao Nam had gone to the restaurant but encountered a scene. Van Zhang was putting on slippers for Man Tin. Hao Nam angrily announced that he couldn't come, but Man Tin didn't bother to text back. So Hao Nam was drinking a lot of beer. On this side, Man Tin suspected that Hao Nam was not her future husband, but Man Than insisted that Man Tin could only love Hao Nam. If gentle flirting didn't work, Man Tin needed to be more aggressive. Man Than told her mother to remember to invite Hao Nam to his birthday party tomorrow. The next day, Man Tin asked her son what he liked. Man Cheng laughed when he heard that because he remembered the birthday gifts his mother had prepared for him. When he was little, his mother gave him an electronic anti-copying bracelet, but it caused her hair to stand on end. When Man Cheng was older, Man Xing gave him a model, but it made strange noises. So this time, Man Cheng only hoped his mother would keep her promise to him. Just then, Man Tin met Van Zhang, so she had to make up an excuse about forgetting something in the dormitory to leave. In class, Hao Nam didn't see Man Tin with young Lin. She told Hao Nam that Man Tin had a stomachache, which made him very worried. The teacher called Hao Nam to the podium to take attendance. When he saw Man Tin's name, he quickly read out someone else's name. After class, Hao Nam went to see Man Tin. He bought her some painkillers for her stomachache. Hao Nam asked the nurse to write down the instructions, but he still advised her to see a doctor. Man Tin said she didn't have a stomachache, she was just having her period. Man Tin invited Hao Nam to her house tonight so they could celebrate Man Than's birthday. Hao Nam assured her that he would definitely be there on time this time. When Wen Jiang learned that Man Tin was avoiding him, he searched for her everywhere. Finally, Wen Jiang frankly confessed his feelings. He wanted Man Tin to be his girlfriend. However, Man Tin rejected his confession because she liked someone else. She hoped that Wen Jiang wouldn't bother her anymore in the future. At the same time, Man Cheng went to the dormitory to pick up Man Ting. However, he couldn't reach her by phone. He only heard from Man Ting's roommate that Man Ting was in the main hall. Coincidentally, a romantic confession by a male student from the physical education department had just taken place there. Man Than lost control and rushed towards Own Van Zhang. When Man Tin returned home, she was asked by Man Than if she had accepted Van Zhang's confession of love. Man Tin admitted that Van Zhang had confessed his feelings to her, but before Man Tin could finish a sentence, Man Than threw the gift box into the corner of the house. He reminded his mother that Wen Jiang was not a good person. Man Xing remembered that although she had never seen Wen Jiang do anything bad, she still listened to Man Cheng and decided to stay away from him. But Man Xing couldn't stop Wen Jiang from rushing towards her. Man Tin didn't need to change her fate, nor did she want to pursue Hao Nam anymore. At this moment, Man Than felt regret for harboring the illusion that he could save his mother's life. Just as Man Than left, Hao Nam came to celebrate his birthday. But Man Tin was angry at this time, so she scolded and chased Hao Nam away. Man Than went to Chu Lin's house to ask for a place to stay for the night. When he heard that Man Tin was also here, he quickly hid in the restroom. Man Tin was furious because Man Than was an unfilial person. He threw away her birthday gift and blamed her for getting involved with Van Zhang. While Man Tin had rejected his confession of love, she even ran to put together a family photo to give to Man Than. When Man Tin went to the bathroom to touch up her makeup, she unexpectedly heard the sound of running water. Chu Lin pretended that she was using the automatic shower. Then she sent Man Tin away first. After that, Chu Lin applied medicine to Man Than. At this moment, Man Than remembered that since childhood, Chu Lin always played with him in place of his mother. She lent Man Than the sofa to sleep on. Whenever he leaves home, he can come here. The next morning, Man Tin didn't hear the alarm clock anymore. When she went out to the living room, she found that no one had prepared breakfast for her. When Man Tin arrived at class, Hao Nam had already prepared a seat for her. But Man Tin went straight downstairs, not even glancing at Hao Nam. When school ended, Hao Nam asked Man Tin to deliver the experiment report to Man Than, but when she heard Man Than's name, she got angry. Man Tin scolded Hao Nam for treating her like a delivery person. When Hao Nam arrived at the library, he imagined Man Tin's happy face. When Hao Nan was having dinner or going to school, he also saw Man Xing, but all those images vanished. In just a moment, when Yu Qing saw Hao Nan looking like he was in a daze, she pretended that an older student was clinging to her. But Hao Nan advised her to be more independent, especially that Yu Qing should learn how to refuse. Just then, Hao Nan saw Man Xing walking by, so he immediately asked Kia Kiao about her situation. Xiao Xiao said that Man Xing was looking for Man Cheng. Hearing this, Hao Nan reassured her, then he took Man Xing outside to look for Man Cheng. However, after half a day of searching, they still couldn't find any trace of Man Cheng. When Hao Nan heard the market team posting notices indiscriminately to find the culprit, he quickly pulled Man Xing to hide in a small alley. Both of them were confused because the space was so narrow that they couldn't move. Man Tin told Hao Nam to lean to the left so she could slip past. Man Tin suddenly remembered Man Than saying that he loved eating ice cream near here when he was little, but when the two of them went to that ice cream shop, they still didn't see Man Than. Hao Nam quickly got Man Tin a strawberry ice cream because he still remembered the taste of her lipstick. Just then, many customers came to buy ice cream. Hao Nam conveniently made ice cream for them. Finally, the ice cream shop owner returned. Hao Nam showed Man Than's picture to the owner. But she said she had never met this person. Man Tin thought that Man Than's childhood must have happened more than 10 years ago. Man Tin gave the owner some money to thank her because her ice cream had made a little boy very happy. Meanwhile, Man Than drove to pick up Chu Lin after work. Knowing that her colleagues often mocked her for not having a boyfriend, Man Cheng pretended to be a rich and kind boyfriend. When the two returned to the apartment, Chu Ling heard her neighbors praising her boyfriend for being so polite. Man Cheng revealed that he had given away all the snacks in Chu Ling's cupboard. Because she often stayed up late working overtime at the hospital, she ate unhealthy food. Instead, Man Cheng cooked red bean porridge for her to nourish her. Just then, Man Tin called Chu Lin to inform her that she and Hao Nam still hadn't found Man Than. After hearing this, Man Than created an opportunity for his mother to be with her future husband. Man Than started live streaming and commented on the snacks at the suburban resort. When they arrived at the rest stop, Hao Nam got out of the car to use the restroom. Man Tin woke up and went outside to get some fresh air. Hao Nam returned to the car and thought Man Tin was still asleep, so he drove towards the suburbs. Just then, Chu Lin called, but Hao Nam couldn't find Man Tin. Meanwhile, Man Tin had gotten into someone else's car by mistake. The driver was startled to see his pet dog suddenly transform into a girl. Man Tin shyly said that she had gotten into the wrong car. She asked the driver to let her off. Finally, Hao Nam returned to find Man Tin. She reproached him for being inconsiderate and leaving her in the hot sun. When Hao Nam saw that Man Tin's legs were numb, he immediately picked her up. He asked her to stay within his sight. Also, Man Tin had to hold Hao Nam's hand tightly so that what just happened wouldn't happen again. When the two arrived at the resort to look for Man Than, Hao Nam had already booked 2 single rooms. As the staff informed them, a guest had just booked 1 room, so currently only room 520 was available. When Man Tin heard the guest's name, she immediately recognized it as Man Than. She decided to conspire with Hao Nam to lure Man Than out. Sure enough, room 520 was reserved for couples. Man Tin quickly covered the heart shape on the bed to lessen her embarrassment. Hao Nam urged her to take a shower so she could sleep comfortably, but Man Tin claimed her legs were a little tired and she wanted to lie down for a while. Man Tin rummaged around the room looking for her son's clairvoyant eye. Just then, the waiter brought in dinner. He wished them a romantic experience. Hao Nam said he had just ordered the food and hoped it would suit Man Tin's taste. However, all they saw before them was a sexy shapewear nightgown. On this side, Man Cheng guessed that Man Sheng had received the secret gift he sent. Man Cheng comfortably competed with Chu Ling for instant noodles, but unexpectedly, the noodles unintentionally brought them closer together. Man Cheng, flustered, hurriedly ran to the bathroom. The next morning when Man Tin woke up, she saw Hao Nam sleeping soundly on the sofa. She went closer to look at him, but Hao Nam startled so much that he twisted his neck, so Man Tin could only watch him stretch. When she saw Hao Nam engrossed in his phone, she gently straightened his neck. Man Tin decided not to look for Man Than anymore, but instead she would enjoy the spring breeze with Hao Nam. Man Tin's smile was as radiant as the sun. It spread and illuminated every hidden corner of Hao Nam's heart. At the square, Hao Nam received a flyer advertising activities for couples. When Man Tin read the name of the game, which was both long and difficult to understand, she immediately guessed who was behind the event. Man Tin pulled Hao Nam to participate in the game, and the first game was called Relying on Each Other. Man Tin saw 2 employees who were free, so she pushed them to join in. When Man Tin counted to 3, she immediately turned around and jumped into Hao Nam's arms because she trusted that he would catch her. Then Man Tin helped an employee who was lying on the ground. She whispered to the employee, "Good boy, it's time to go home." Man Than heard this and panicked. He quickly pulled Chu Lin away. When Man Than arrived at Chu Lin's house, he heard Man Tin opening the door. Man Cheng immediately hid behind the curtain. While Man Sheng was playing with the dog, he secretly went into the bathroom to tidy up. Finally, Chu Ling returned. She cleverly sent her best friend away, but Man Sheng felt as if someone was watching her. Chu Ling thought it was Man Cheng, so she urged Man Sheng to find him quickly. When Man Than heard someone was following Man Tin, he quickly ran after her. Man Than saw a person with their face completely covered, so he had a brick ready. Unexpectedly, everything was orchestrated by Man Tin. Back home, Man Tin and Man Than held a dinner to apologize to each other. Man Tin punished her son for suspecting her of having an affair with Van Jan. Moreover, Man Than even dared to leave home. When Man Tin was drunk, Man Than made honey water for her. Man Tin said that during the time Man Than was missing, she often dreamed of him going towards the Great Sea. She was very afraid that her son would disappear and never return. When the new semester began, Man Tin heard that Hao Nam had enrolled in the drama club, so she joined as well. Just then, Hao Nam was sharing his reasons for pursuing drama. He thanked a girl who had taught him how to play a villain. Thanks to that experience, Hao Nam gained unexpected joy from this new experience. Man Tin volunteered to perform a scene with Hao Nam. In that scene, Hao Nam plays Romeo and confesses his love to the girl he likes. Man Tin plays Juliet very naturally, but she doesn't know her lines. Just then, Van Zhang arrives to register, but the club has already recruited enough members. When leaving, Van Zhang chases after Man Tin. He invites her to cheer him on in the football match against the physics department. Man Tin asks Van Zhang not to follow her anymore. After saying that, she pulled Hao Nan to the basketball court where Hao Nan wanted to play basketball. The two friends thought Hao Nan only focused on studying, but they didn't expect him to be good at sports as well. Wu Qing guessed that Hao Nan had changed himself because of Manxing. When Manxing found out that Hao Nan was participating in the basketball game, she brought her friends to cheer him on. She shouted slogans, making Hao Nam unable to stop laughing. When the game started, the physical education department was leading by 2 points. But Hao Nam truly lived up to his reputation as a treasure of the physics department. He quickly caught up the score for his team. Van Zhang reminded Hao Nam not to be too complacent because the football field is not like a desk. Van Zhang constantly clashed with Hao Nam. He also took advantage of the situation to provoke Hao Nam. However, because Van Zhang committed a foul, Hao Nam was awarded 2 penalties. Then he brilliantly put the ball into the basket, causing the physical education department to only win by 1 point. Under the Manxing tree, she guessed that Hao Nan still had many hidden talents, but she was very curious about why he suddenly registered to participate in the match. Hao Nan frankly said, "I hate Wen Jiang's arrogance." Hao Nan remembered that he only exerted a little strength, so why did he have to bandage almost his entire arm? Manxing revealed that she had even prepared a wheelchair for Hao Nan. In the gentle spring sunlight streaming through the window, Hao Nan approached and gazed at Manxing, radiant like an angel. But that was only Manxing's fantasy, because in reality, she was only playing an extra in the theater troupe. Hao Nan wanted to create clouds in the room instead of sitting and removing cotton, but everyone saw him making things up. Just then, Wu Qing came in and announced that the student council had decided to disband the drama club. Manxing chased after Wu Qing. Manxing thought she wanted to separate her and Hao Nan. Wu Qing thought that acting wouldn't help with studying at a science school. When Mancheng arrived at the lab, he happened to catch Hao Nan secretly reading the script. Mancheng remembered that the club had been disbanded. Was Hao Nan planning to switch to the film industry? Hao Nan thought that everyone was serious about practicing acting, so they would surely find a way to turn things around. Mancheng realized that Hao Nan quite liked acting, so he arranged for his future husband to meet him at the drama studio on behalf of his mother. While Hao Nan stood outside the window, he secretly filmed the moment Manxing shone on stage. Manxing shyly announced that she had collected enough signatures to protest the decision to disband the club. However, Man Tin felt that Juliet's ending was tragic because she didn't get to be with the one she loved. Immediately afterwards, Hao Nam jumped up and recited his lines, and Hao Nam understood and cooperated with her. After a while, Man Tin noticed everyone was watching her perform. They all loved theater and wanted to practice together because of their passion. If people don't have a theater, they can set up an outdoor stage at the sports field. Hao Nam performs a scene of eternal love with Juliet. Man Tin remembers her son and tells her to take advantage of the atmosphere to have intimate contact with Hao Nam. She hadn't had a chance to kiss him yet and wanted to fall into Hao Nan's arms, but unexpectedly the director shouted cut because Manxing had acted out the character's emotions incorrectly. She felt a little regretful about missing that opportunity. But Manxing was still gently helped down by Hao Nan, and then the two went to a restaurant. There, Manxing saw a girl pretending to get dust in her eyes to surprise her boyfriend with a kiss. So Manxing decided to use this method. She deliberately poured a lot of chili into her bowl of noodles. As expected, Manxing felt very spicy. But before the two could share a romantic kiss, Manxing spat food on Hao Nan's head. When they returned to the dormitory, Manxing pretended to have an eye infection, but unexpectedly, Kia suddenly appeared. She dragged Manxing back to take an online test, and then Hao Nan stood outside the female dormitory. At that moment, Manxing texted him to ask him out for a walk. Wu Qing suddenly rushed to hug Hao Nan because she felt someone was watching her. When Wu Qing saw Manxing, she shouted that she liked Hao Nan. Then Wu Qing pretended to brush dust off his shoulder. Manxing misunderstood that they had kissed. Hao Nan urged Wu Qing to quickly go into the dormitory to avoid the stalker. In the evening, Man Tin invited her son out for drinks to drown her sorrows. She criticized Hao Nam for being a bad man. He had kissed Man Tin but then kissed another girl. Man Fan guessed that his mother had mistaken him for someone else. He carried her home. Man Tin praised her son as the best person. He was unlike those unfaithful men. A while later, Hao Nam waited for Man Tin to return to the dormitory. However, she didn't even glance at him, while her friends pointed their guns at Hao Nam's face. They protected Man Tin and prevented Hao Nam from getting close to her. When Hao Nam went to see Man Fan, he wondered why Man Tin was angry with him. Man Fan asked Hao Nam, "I really don't know." Or was he just pretending when Hao Nam saw the photo that caused the misunderstanding? He hurriedly ran to find Man Tin. During class, Man Tin was like a person in a daze. When Hao Nam saw the teacher call on her to speak, he immediately texted her to remind her of the lesson. Hao Nam also sent another letter to arrange a meeting with Man Tin. He wanted to use this opportunity to explain the misunderstanding, but Man Tin trusted her own eyes and refused his invitation. Hao Nam chased after Man Tin to ask for a chance to clear his name. He explained that he had promised his grandmother that he would protect Vu Tin's safety. She used the excuse that someone was following her and unexpectedly brushed the dust off Hao Nam's shoulder. Just then, Vu Tin ran up. Hao Nam hoped she would report it to the police next time, because from now on, he wanted to protect the most important person in his heart. However, that ambiguous declaration of love was still not enough to appease Man Tin's anger. At the birthday party, Man Tin did not invite Hao Nam. Man Fan knew his mother was still angry, so he secretly reported the situation to Hao Nam. Man Tin questioned why Hao Nam didn't make the effort to attend her birthday party. She wandered outside and found him waiting for her. She walked over and fell into his arms. Because Man Tin had drunk a lot of alcohol, she revealed all the things she had kept hidden in her heart. Hao Nam felt very happy hearing those words. Since the dormitory was closed, Hao Nam had to take Man Tin to a hotel. She felt very uncomfortable because she couldn't vomit. Meanwhile, she accidentally bumped into the wall and switched off the lights in the room. Finally, Man Tin asked what their relationship was. Hao Nam replied that the answer lay with her. He slowly walked closer and gently placed a kiss on her lips. The sweet taste of her beard intoxicated him. Hao Nam was completely engrossed and couldn't stop, but then the lights suddenly came on brightly, and the two looked at each other and smiled shyly. The next day, when Hao Nam heard that Man Tin was sick, he rushed to the infirmary. Hao Nam gently pressed his forehead against Man Tin's. He could clearly feel the lingering heat. Worried, Hao Nam pulled her back home to rest. To keep Hao Nan from leaving, Man Xing dipped her binoculars in hot water. She pretended to be so weak that she could only swallow a spoonful of porridge. Hao Nan said that he had requested leave for Man Xing, so she could rest assured and recover. He gave Man Xing a birthday present, albeit a day late. She thought the gift, a diamond ring, was real, but it turned out to be just a piece of carbon. Hao Nam explained that after carbon crystallizes under high temperature and pressure, it will turn into a diamond. Hao Nam urged Man Tin to get well soon so she could give him the answer. When Man Tin met her son and told him that Hao Nam was demanding an answer from her, she wished that love should begin with a bouquet of flowers and a romantic declaration of love. After Man Tin recovered from her illness, she immediately invited Hao Nam to the aquarium. She admired the proposal scene in the aquarium. Man Tin hinted that fish are the first to confess their love to the female fish, but Hao Nam argued that animals only mate and don't confess their love. Then the two of them went to the old lady's shop together. Hao Nam quickly took off his shirt to cover Man Tin's legs. She asked him to order drinks while she went to the restroom. Coincidentally, Van Zhang was also sitting and drinking nearby. He immediately chased after Man Tin. Van Zhang questioned her about why she didn't like him. Luckily, Hao Nam appeared in time. He warned Van Zhang to stay away from his girlfriend in the future. Finally, the play performance took place. Although the members tried to hand out flyers, the outdoor stage only had 4 actors and 4 audience members. Hao Nam came up with the idea of filming a video to post on the school forum. Man Fan asked a friend to film close-ups of the 2 main characters, while he would film wide shots. However, when Hao Nan and Man Xingyang were together, he misspoke and accidentally expressed his feelings for her. The next day at the lab, the professor sent Hao Nan to participate in the East Camp, which brought together the best physics students in the country along with renowned scholars who often appeared in journals. At this moment, Man Cheng revealed that Man Xing was very hurt. He used a physics experiment to explain the relationship between Hao Nan and Man Xing. After hearing it, Hao Nan realized that he needed to confess his feelings quickly and intensely. Then Hao Nan took Man Xing to the haunted house. He intended to act out a hero rescuing a damsel in distress. However, Man Xing was not afraid at all. Instead, she taught the staff how to act more realistically. When Hao Nan took Man Xing to the movie theater, he instructed the staff to pretend there was a broadcasting malfunction so they could show a commemorative video of him and Man Xing, but as soon as the screen went off, Man Xing rushed out to demand compensation from the staff. Hao Nam ran out to coax her back into the theater as the staff announced that the projector was actually malfunctioning. After a series of failures, Man Than decided to supervise Hao Nam. He revealed that Man Tin always wished that someone would confess their love to her on a snowy day. Man Than prepared a snow machine, ensuring Hao Nam would succeed this time. That afternoon, Hao Nam called Man Tin out to the balcony. He wrote his confession on the snow, but Man Tin got angry and called him a scoundrel. It turned out that while Hao Nam wasn't paying attention, a couple accidentally stepped on the snow. Initially, Hao Nam wrote "Be my girlfriend," but now only the words "Be my girlfriend" remain. Man Than shook her head and urged Hao Nam to eat something to warm his heart. When they arrived at the supermarket, Man Tin had prepared snacks for the winter break. She decided to ignore him to provoke Hao Nam. On the first day of winter break, Man Tin woke up early to watch TV. Man Than reminded her mother to fulfill their promise, which was that she had to study and pursue Hao Nam. But after Man Tin got bored watching TV, she started playing games. Man Than had to pretend to say that Hao Nam had come to visit. And sure enough, this made Hao Nam's mother immediately pick up a book to read. She knew she had fallen into a trap but still felt angry that Hao Nan hadn't come to find her yet. That evening, when Man Xing Mo was sloppily throwing away the trash, Man Cheng asked if she wasn't afraid of meeting Hao Nan in this state. Man Xing thought that if Hao Nan loved her, he wouldn't criticize her most genuine appearance. Moreover, Hao Nan hadn't contacted Man Xing for 3 days. After Man Cheng dropped his mother off halfway, he secretly returned early. Because Man Xing couldn't find her son, she had to leave him temporarily under a tree. Just then, a Romeo and Juliet scene played on the wall in front of them. White snowflakes suddenly fell. Hao Nan unexpectedly appeared and said romantic words. Although he couldn't control the weather, he could make it snow for her. "If you are the skin link, then I will be the chroma link. Many people say that there is no possibility between us, but I believe that superconjugation exists in this world. So please be my girlfriend." Finally, Man Tin nodded in agreement to that romantic confession. Hao Nam bent down to savor the cool strawberry taste on her lips. From afar, Man Than witnessed this scene and smiled, tears welling up in his eyes. He was happy that his mother had finally found true happiness. The next day, the two began their first date. Man Than happily imitated the couple next to him. She fed ice cream to her boyfriend. However, Hao Nam avoided it because he was allergic to so-ai. He gave Man Tin a cup of strawberry ice cream so she could continue feeding him. Man Tin intended to take the opportunity to kiss her boyfriend, but unexpectedly, he took her hand and fed him the ice cream. Man Tin realized that neither of them had any dating experience, so they decided to follow the couple next to them. When Man Tin saw them making pottery very affectionately, she immediately imitated them and hugged Hao Nam from behind. As a result, the ceramic pot fell over, and mud splashed all over both of their faces. After Man Cheng heard about his mother's date, he laughed so hard his back hurt. Man Xing blamed Hao Nan for treating her like an answer key, so he kept asking what they should do next. But Man Than thought that Hao Nam asked that out of respect for Man Tin. Man Than advised her to say what she really wanted to do so that Hao Nam could understand her more completely. Meanwhile, Hao Nam's father praised his son for increasingly resembling a scholar. He recalled that when he was young, he also loved physics so much that he often laughed foolishly. Just then, Hao Nam heard Man Tin calling, so he hurriedly ran outside to meet his girlfriend. Man Tin shouted loudly, asking Hao Nam when they would have a child. Unexpectedly, Hao Nam's father came out and pretended not to have heard clearly. Man Tin was embarrassed and quickly excused herself to leave. Hao Nam's father said that having a son was related to the principle of jealousy maps in physics. The next day, Hao Nam wondered about his girlfriend's question from the previous night. Man Tin recounted how Man Fan had told her that she should express what she wanted to do to her boyfriend. Man Tin told Hao Nam to hurry up, lest a son suddenly appear before him. Back home, Hao Nam received a series of questions from Man Tin about when they would have a child. At this moment, Tat was watching a documentary about the mating season of animals. Hao Nam's father added that hydras have the ability to continuously convert stem cells into reproductive cells. Humans are the same. Only with a healthy body can humans have good offspring. Hao Nam immediately went to the gym. He kept lifting weights and doing push-ups. Then Hao Nam texted his girlfriend to let her know he was ready. Meanwhile, Man Tin photoshopped her son's picture with Hao Nam's. Unfortunately, the result didn't resemble Man Fan at all. Man Fan warned his mother not to trust photo editing apps. When Man Tin heard her son say that he didn't have any childhood photos, she blamed herself for being irresponsible. Man Tin decided that from now on, she would make up for it little by little for her son. When Hao Nan invited his girlfriend to the hot springs, he had prepared a strong and healthy body. Unexpectedly, Man Cheng also came along. Man Jing wanted to make up for Man Cheng, and at the same time, she wanted to help. Hao Nan adapted to life with a son. Hao Nan couldn't accept a son who was older than him. Man Jing happily watched her husband and son bathing together. Before everyone went to bed, Man Jing organized a candlelight ghost story session. But as soon as Man Cheng threatened her, she became frightened. Man Tin regained her composure. Then she started telling the story of a female student renting a room who was bitten. As a result, she scared herself so much that she didn't dare to sleep. Hao Nam comforted Man Tin, telling her not to be afraid because he was always there. Hao Nam's words reassured her, and she slept soundly. Hao Nam asked Man Fan, "Are you really Man Tin's cousin?" Because even siblings aren't that close. Man Fan thought that blood ties were magical, that they could bring two people closer together. He wondered if Hao Nan would marry Man Xing. Hao Nan remembered that a famous physicist once said that if people are lucky enough to find true love, they should never let go of that person. At lunch the next day, Hao Nan cut meat for his girlfriend, but she gave the piece of meat to Man Cheng. He returned the piece of meat to Hao Nan because Hao Nan was the one paying. After the holiday ended, Hao Nan held his girlfriend's hand and returned to school. When Hao Nan saw his rival right in front of him, he immediately hugged his girlfriend tightly to assert his claim. Man Xing offered to help a female classmate, simply because she wanted to show off that she had a boyfriend studying physics. Hao Nan saw that Man Xing spoke so arrogantly, so she must have many enemies. Just then, Xiao Xiao came and dragged Man Xing to buy fertilizer to grow chili peppers. When Man Cheng arrived at the laboratory, he blamed Hao Nan for finding a bad hot spring, which caused him to have an allergic reaction all over his body. Hao Nan thought Man Cheng had to pay the price for interfering in their date. At this moment, Man Fan discovered that there was a notebook in the medicine bag with many names written on it. Hao Nam guessed that Man Tin might be practicing calligraphy or secretly in love with Man Fan. Just then, Chu Lin texted Man Fan to arrange a meeting to discuss something important. Only then did he realize that the notebook belonged to Chu Lin. Chu Lin called her best friend to comfort her and told her that she had been rejected before she could confess her feelings. Man Tin wanted to have full information about that terrible man. Chu Lin only dared to reveal that Man Tin also knew him. Unexpectedly, Man Tin burst into tears because she thought her best friend was in love with her boyfriend. Chu Lin had to confess that she had a crush on Man Fan. She intended to meet him to confess her feelings, but he didn't respond. Man Tin strongly opposed this relationship. Man Tin went home and questioned her son. She thought that he was the one who had been flirting with Chu Ling, but Man Cheng immediately denied it. Because he knew that Chu Ling was his future foster mother. Man Xing guessed that Man Cheng's attention unintentionally compensated for Chu Ling's childhood traumas. Moreover, Chu Ling didn't know that Man Cheng came from the future. Man Tin advised her son not to flatly refuse, but to eradicate all seeds of love in Chu Lin's thoughts. Man Fan didn't expect his mother to say such profound things. At this time, Man Tin announced that she had just opened a dating class. More and more people in the dormitory applied to join Man Tin's class. Just then, Wu Qing brought Xiao Man to demand compensation from her. Xiao Man followed Man Xing's advice to open her heart. As a result, she was cheated out of all her money. When Man Xing heard the name of the fire-digging man surnamed Shu, she immediately guessed that it was Xu Wenjiang. When Man Xing ambushed Wenjiang's house, she saw his mother come down to greet him. Man Tin rushed out and introduced herself as Xiao Man. Today she came to demand that when Jiang returned the 3,000 yuan. Wu Qing rushed over and said that it was the money that saved Xiao Man's family. Because when Jiang was afraid of his mother worrying, he had no choice but to return the money to Man Tin. Meanwhile, Man Cheng had arrived for his date with Chu Ling, but he pretended to just pass by, and even deliberately ate very rudely. Unexpectedly, Chu Ling didn't criticize Man Cheng. Instead, she smiled affectionately. Man Cheng remembered his mother saying that girls hate men who lecture others, so he crossed his legs on the chair and began explaining the theory of cosmic black holes. But Chu Ling seemed extremely interested in this topic. Finally, Man Cheng showed contempt for her work. He thought women should stay at home to take care of their husbands and children. Chu Ling misunderstood that Man Cheng was hinting at marriage, so she took the opportunity to confess her feelings to him. But before Chu Ling could finish a sentence, Man Cheng asserted that no romantic feelings could develop between the two of them. That evening, when Hao Nan picked up his girlfriend from school, he heard that she had caused trouble again. Man Xing immediately clarified that she was only doing good deeds. So Hao Nan just needed to obediently be her man. Just then, a dog barked loudly. Man Xing, frightened, clung to Hao Nan's arms. When he saw the shooting star, he clasped his hands together and made a wish. Hao Nan wished that the shooting star could take them to the future. The next day, Hao Nan met Wen Jiang at the girls' dormitory. He took the opportunity to remind Wen Jiang to stay away from his girlfriend. Wen Jiang said that he had lost interest in Man Xing, but he hoped Hao Nan would advise his girlfriend not to meddle in other people's affairs. Hao Nan remembered that digging for firewood for 3,000 yuan was enough to initiate a criminal case under Article 266 of the law. If Wen Jiang continued to pester and harass Man Xing, Hao Nan would report it to the police. Just then, Man Xing came down and heard her boyfriend explaining the law. Hao Nam had given his girlfriend a clay doll. They symbolized the two of them, but Man Xing wondered why she was so fat. Hao Nam explained that he was the man behind Sister Dai, so he would have to be like a little bird clinging to her. When Man Than heard Viu Tin say that Man Tin had offended Van Zhang, Man Than went to his house. Van Zhang was worried that his mother would be worried, so he quickly pulled Man Than outside to talk. Man Than asks Van Zhang to stay away from Man Tin. Meanwhile, Man Tin's father wants to meet his daughter's boyfriend. When Man Tin sees Hao Nam raising his glass of wine, she reminds him to prepare to face the biggest challenge of his life. Hao Nam proactively stated that he is 1.88 m tall, studies physics, his father is a teacher, and his house is at 51 Annan Street. Hao Nam promised to take good care of Man Tin with Man Than. Man Tin's father wondered who Man Than was. Man Tin had to pretend to be drunk so that On Lak could direct everyone. Hao Nam told Man Than that he had met Man Tin's parents. At that moment, Man Tin called both of them to try out the new bed. She imagined building a house with Hao Nam, which would have a separate room for the baby. Hao Nam suspected that Man Than was not Man Tin's cousin. Man Cheng suspected that Man Xing's father had accidentally revealed his identity, so Man Cheng pretended that Man Xing's father was suffering from early-stage dementia. Every time Man Cheng visited, Man Xing's father would forget him. He didn't even know what year his daughter was studying or what major she was majoring in. Hao Nan felt that what Man Cheng said was true, so he blamed himself for being so thoughtless and not realizing this. Hao Nan promised to take good care of Man Xing in place of her father. The next morning, Hao Nam bought peanut-free tofu pudding for his girlfriend. He also prepared a dating schedule to minimize variables in their relationship. At this moment, Man Than announced that he would be moving house because he didn't want to see the two of them being intimate every day. Hearing this, Man Tin decided that their date schedule for today was to find a house for Man Than. However, when everyone looked at the 17th apartment, Man Tin was still not satisfied. Man Than discovered that the apartment overlooked the street where Chu Lin usually went to work every day, so he decided to rent that apartment immediately. Hao Nam had a date with his girlfriend on the weekend, but Man Tin was not at home. Just as her father returned, Hao Nan thought Man Xing's father had dementia, so he reintroduced himself by name. However, Man Xing's father still clearly remembered that Hao Nan, 1.88 m tall, majored in physics. His father was a teacher living at 51 Annan Street. Man Xing's father suspected his daughter was making things up about him again. When Hao Nam told Man Than that Man Tin's father had dementia, he was startled because he didn't have a grandson named Man Than. When Man Tin returned home, she heard Hao Nam ask, "Did you just visit Man Than?" Man Tin was afraid her boyfriend would worry, so she didn't tell him beforehand. Hao Nam wondered why he should worry, unless Man Than wasn't Man Tin's cousin. At this point, Hao Nan lost control and loudly questioned Man Cheng about who he really was. If Man Cheng was pursuing Man Xing, why would he try to pair them up? If Man Cheng was related to Man Xing, why didn't her father know about the existence of this nephew? Hao Nan became increasingly angry as he realized his girlfriend had never trusted him. At this point, Man Xing finally told the truth. Man Cheng was her and Hao Nan's son. He was from the year 2051. He traveled back to the past using a time machine so that Hao Nam could believe that Man Tin had shown him the results of the paternity test. But Hao Nam still believed that humans could only travel through time to the future, and there was no theory proving the possibility of returning to the past. Moreover, it was all just an imaginary experiment. Hao Nam wanted to think more because he couldn't accept this truth yet. When Man Than secretly followed Chu Lin and discovered Zhang was walking behind her, Man Than hurriedly followed without knowing his mother was calling him. When Man Than heard the security guard say that a student had just assaulted a female nurse, he immediately rushed towards Own Van Zhang. Fortunately, Chu Lin managed to stop him in time. Van Zhang thanked her for treating his wounds, so he didn't pursue Man Than any further. Meanwhile, Hao Nam went to the hospital to check the results of the paternity test, and he coincidentally met Man Tin. He wondered why Man Than always disliked Van Zhang. Man Tin knew that Hao Nam found it very difficult to accept the situation. He has a child who is older than him. Just then, Man Than arrived. He also knew that Hao Nam knew the whole truth. Hao Nam arranged to watch a movie with Man Tin and Man Than later. Hao Nam likes to watch science fiction movies, while the other two wanted to watch a romance movie. Hao Nam acknowledged they had many similarities, but he wondered if he was really Man Than's father. Man Tin suggested they get to know each other again from the beginning. She held her future husband and son's hands so they could bond more. Man Than stammered a greeting to his father. While Hao Nam awkwardly greeted his son to strengthen their bond, Hao Nam took Man Tin and Man Than to the vet. Man Than pretended to be busy and tried to leave, but Hao Nam reminded him to remember to come back and donate. Man Tin guessed that Hao Nam still hadn't accepted the truth, which is why he wanted to investigate Man Than's group. She declared that she belonged to Group O, while she and Hao Nam belonged to Group AB. Man Tin was very angry because Hao Nam didn't trust her. Man Than thought that Hao Nam was just like everyone else. He finds it hard to accept a boy who is 7 years older than him. Moreover, initially, Man Tin pursued Hao Nam to change her fate. But Hao Nam found it difficult to accept that. This shows that he highly values his future with Man Tin. When Hao Nam got home, he analyzed the relationship between himself and Man Tin, Man Than, and Van Zhang. Hao Nam suddenly remembered that he had received an anonymous email containing everything he wanted to know. However, Hao Nam didn't know the password to open the mailbox. He tried entering his birthday and the correct password. It turned out that the sender was Hao Nam in the future. He claimed to be Man Cheng's graduate tutor. At that moment, Hao Nan's father reported that a drunk young man had come to see him. When Hao Nan went down to meet Man Cheng, he asked, will their relationship only be that of teacher and student in the future? Hao Nan didn't understand why Man Cheng had to lie. He also tried every way to bring Hao Nam and Man Tin together. Man Than showed Hao Nam her disguise. Man Tin was very distressed to have married such a bad husband. It turned out that when Jiang was Man Than's father, he said that in the future Hao Nam would become a famous professor. He would guide Man Than in researching the topic of time travel. But the most important thing is that Hao Nam will always take care of Man Tin and Man Than in the future. When Man Tin and her boyfriend go to the supermarket, she wants to prepare some things for the baby in advance. Man Tin wants to change the future. To make Man Than taller and healthier, Man Tin even buys concert tickets. It helps nurture the autistic cells in the fetus. When Man Than passed by Van Zhang's house, he heard a crashing sound. Neighbors say that Van Zhang's father is addicted to gambling, so he often beats his wife and children. Man Than enters and sees that Van Zhang's situation is no different from his own. But why does he repeat his father's mistakes? To make Thick Thuck and his mother suffer when Man Tin goes to the library to find her boyfriend, she only finds his phone on the table. She saw him researching the paradox of reincarnation. Meanwhile, Hao Nam joined a time travel research group. The professor wanted to wait until he graduated before letting him join. Since there had never been a researcher as young as Hao Nan, he hypothesized that if a person went back to the past, it might just be a parallel universe, so he still had the ability to go back to the future and continue living. The professor thought that the theory at this stage couldn't clearly explain those things. Finally, Man Xing met her boyfriend. She scolded him for leaving his phone in the library. Hao Nan was still researching time paradoxes, so he was like a man possessed all day. Hao Nan hurriedly beat the village drum. He dragged his girlfriend to find Man Xing. Man Tin wanted to gather the whole family, but Man Than refused, making excuses. Hao Nam understood that Man Than was avoiding the situation so that Man Tin wouldn't have any regrets, but life couldn't avoid anything. Therefore, Man Than should live today as if it were his last. Hearing this, Man Than felt relieved. He wanted to have fun and relax with his mother, because if Man Than couldn't change the paradox of time, he would create the most beautiful memories with the people he loved. Upon returning, Man Tin bought a lot of squid to eat with her husband and children. But as soon as Hao Nam paid, the shop owner sped away in his car to escape the market management team. Hao Nam looked down the street and saw a photo studio, so he invited the other two to go there. When the owner heard Hao Nam say that he had a friend who was about to leave, he opened his doors to welcome the last customers of the day. Man Tin felt a little regretful, but she was also looking forward to the day her son was born. At this moment, Man Than recalled his childhood, when he and his mother came here every Lunar New Year. They wanted to take family photos, but Man Than's father never showed up. Like this time, they finally had a complete family picture. Man Tin complained that her face was a little big, but Hao Nam and Man Than looked quite alike. Just then, the owner of the grilled squid restaurant returned to deliver the food to everyone. Man Tin looked at their family and felt they were very happy, just like her own family. Man Than didn't want to interfere with their relationship, so he excused himself and left. Hao Nam then put his arm around his girlfriend and went on a date. When Man Than returned, he silently looked at the two family photos. At this moment, Man Than felt content because this journey had given him and his mother many more memories. He had no regrets, no matter the cost. The next day, at the school cafeteria, Man Than saw Hao Nam preparing lunch for Man Tin, and he praised his good judgment. Because Hao Nan is just as good as he was in the future. Hao Nan recalled that in the past, he always thought that he couldn't control what happened outside of Earth. But now Hao Nan realizes that they can't even control what happens right in front of them. Just then, Man Xing arrived and wished that time would pass quickly so she wouldn't have to study anymore. She wants to graduate, get married, and have children. Man Cheng thought his mother was at the peak of her life because she had someone to pick out every bean sprout and pepper for her to eat. But Man Xing hadn't even had a chance to eat before she ran outside to eavesdrop on other people's conversations. When Man Tin saw Van Zhang playing soccer, she intended to go back for dinner. But Hao Nam remained calm. He casually pulled his girlfriend to stay and watch the soccer match between the two schools. However, Van Zhang faced difficult situations. He was constantly being fouled by his opponents. When Man Than met with Van Zhang privately, he gave him some money, enough to rent a house near the school. Man Than said that if Wen Jiang wanted to protect his mother, he should help her stay away from her abusive husband. Man Than set Wen Jiang's birthday as the password. Man Than also reminded him to check the wound on his wrist. Meanwhile, Hao Nan had prepared a surprise for his girlfriend, a family photo of them displayed in front of a photo shop. Hao Nam recounted that the shop owner felt they were very happy, so he called to ask if he could use the photo as a model. Man Tin wanted to hang the photo there for a long time so that later, when Man Than discovered he looked exactly like the picture, Man Tin and Hao Nam would have already grown old. Hao Nam took more photos of Man Tin. Both wanted to preserve this joyful moment. They didn't know that from afar, Man Than was also secretly recording the images of her two dearest loved ones. Hao Nam knew his girlfriend was studying hard for her exams, so he brought her tofu pudding. They sat under the library stairs, savoring the sweet taste of the dessert together. When Man Than returned home, she was taken care of by her son. Meanwhile, Hao Nam officially joined the time travel plan. Not long after, Man Tin and Hao Nam's college life came to an end. Man Tin felt content because she had found both friendship and love. Moreover, she had a well-behaved son. Under the bright summer sun, Hao Nam wanted to make graduation the most important moment of his life. Hao Nam admits that since childhood he has liked to plan his time precisely, but suddenly a strange person appeared in his life, and just a smile could disrupt all his plans. Hao Nam gradually realizes that 2 hours watching a movie with his girlfriend flies by like 5 minutes, while a day missing her feels like a year. After Hao Nan said these words, he immediately knelt down and proposed to his girlfriend. Man Xing, will you agree to be my destiny? Man Xing agreed without hesitation. And this was the most beautiful moment in Hao Nan's life. He gave the ring to the woman he loved most. Overwhelmed with happiness, Hao Nam kissed Man Tin on the lips. She was not only his first love but also his destiny. The next day, Hao Nam went to see Man Fan to inform him that the wedding invitations were ready. Hao Nam decided to hold the wedding on October 17th. Hao Nam advised Man Fan that if he had changed the past, he shouldn't have any more regrets. Just then, Man Tin came out. She and Wen were secretly discussing something. Man Fan pretended that Hao Nam wanted to hold a bachelor party before getting married. Man Fan asked permission to take a few invitations to invite 2 acquaintances. When Man Fan arrived at Chu Lin's house, he knew that she deliberately refused to open the door. Man Cheng announced that Man Xing was about to get married, so she wanted to spend the happiest moment with her best friend. Additionally, Man Cheng was about to leave, so he wanted to say goodbye to Chu Ling. Unexpectedly, Chu Ling was standing right behind him. She asked Man Cheng where he was going. Then she invited him into the house, but the refrigerator only contained milk and fruit juice. Man Cheng realized that Chu Ling had changed. She had learned to take better care of herself. Chu Ling remembered Man Cheng telling her that eating too much fast food would cause obesity. So every day she tried to eat more fruits and vegetables. Chu Ling revealed that she had just been accepted into the nursing program at Zhongshan Medical University. Man Cheng congratulated Chu Ling upon hearing this. He hoped she would attend his mother's wedding. Chu Ling knew that Man Xing and Hao Nan were destined for each other, while she and Man Cheng truly had no fate together. Meanwhile, Hao Nan went to meet his future father-in-law. He informed him that he was about to marry Man Xing's father. Upon hearing this, invited the 2 of them to have hot pot. He suddenly recalled many old memories from when he used to take his daughter around on his bicycle. Once, Man Tin's father suffered a business loss. At that time, he only had 19 yuan left. Man Tin remembered that her father only ordered broth for the hot pot. He even secretly brought meat and vegetables to dip in the broth. However, after Man Tin's parents divorced, her family no longer had the opportunity to eat together. Man Tin's father revealed that he attended his daughter's graduation ceremony. He waited for Man Tin to accept his marriage proposal and then left. Man Tin's father wanted to show his daughter that although he didn't pay much attention to her life, he never missed a single important moment in her life. Man Tin's father hoped that after his daughter got married, Man Tin would understand him better. Just then, the waiter brought up 8 bowls of tofu pudding without peanuts. Man Tin's father wanted to have a few more celebratory drinks because his daughter was about to get married. After Man Fan gave the wedding invitation to Chu Lin, he had only one left for Van Zhang. At this time, Van Zhang was helping his mother move to a new house. He had written a promissory note and promised that he would pay off all the money to Man Fan within the next year. But Man Fan worried that he couldn't wait any longer. He invited Wen Jiang to the wedding on behalf of Man Xing. Then Man Cheng unexpectedly hugged Wen Jiang. He wanted to use this action so that he would have no regrets later. To preserve the most beautiful moments of their youth, Hao Nan decided to take wedding photos at the university. At the first moment the 2 met, Hao Nan sprayed water on Man Xing. But now she has become his most beautiful bride. Man Tin wondered if Man Fan hadn't reminded her not to give up on Hao Nam. Would they have missed each other? But Hao Nam insisted they were destined for each other. If Man Tin hadn't taken the initiative, Hao Nam would definitely have pursued her first. Before Man Fan passed away, he had arranged to go out with Chu Lin. She took him to eat ice cream, and then the 2 of them immersed themselves in the music in the square. Man Fan felt grateful to Chu Lin for appearing in his life. Whether Man Fan was a child or now, the person who has always been by his side and taken care of him is Chu Lin. What Man Cheng regrets most is that he couldn't reciprocate her feelings, but he truly hopes that they will meet again in another time and space. When Chu Ling and Man Cheng passed by the time travel photo shop, he saw his family photo. Lin understood that today wasn't an ordinary date, but she thought that the happier they were together, the more painful their separation would be. Therefore, Lin suggested they say goodbye here. Just then, Man Tin texted, inviting them to a wedding photo shoot. Man Than breathed a sigh of relief, knowing it wasn't yet time for him to say goodbye to Lin. Hao Nam and Man Tin were taking photos on campus. He obediently followed all of his wife's arrangements. Man Tin waited for Man Than to arrive so the three of them could take a unique photo together. But Man Than suddenly collapsed. He saw his mother faint, but he himself gradually felt disoriented. At the hospital, the doctor announced that they would be transferring Man Tin to the obstetrics and gynecology department. Just then, Man Tin woke up and anxiously asked about her son's condition. Hao Nam said that Man Than was just slightly sunstroke. Then he happily announced to Man Tin that she was pregnant. When Man Than heard the news that his mother was pregnant, he couldn't hold back his tears. Man Tin hugged him and comforted him. She eagerly awaited the day she would see her son. Man Than felt at ease in trusting his mother to the man he trusted most. As Man Than passed by a photo shop, he wanted to buy back his family photo. Then he walked alone down the street. His mind was becoming increasingly hazy. When Man Than arrived home, he saw his mother sleeping soundly on the chair. Man Tin was talking in her sleep, saying she would paint the baby's room blue because it was Man Than's favorite color. Man Than sat down quietly and read his mother's diary. In it, Man Tin wrote that since the sudden appearance of a son, she had gradually accepted the miracle. She began to love and trust Man Than. If there truly was destiny in this world, Man Tin hoped that in any lifetime she would give birth to a good child like Man Than. As the golden sunlight covered the leaves, the wedding venue was filled with the gentle blue of the sky. Man Than was busy organizing his mother's wedding, unaware that someone was silently watching him. As the auspicious time approached, Man Than informed the bride and groom that Man Tin's father had drunk too much alcohol and was no longer sober. Man Tin knew that her father would surely ruin everything, so she suggested that Man Than escort her down the aisle. Before the most sacred moment, Man Tin thanked her son for being by her side. But to Man Than, Man Tin was a wonderful mother. Therefore, she deserved the best. Then Man Than handed his mother over to Hao Nam. He quietly stepped back. Man Than looked at Man Tin and smiled happily. She walked slowly through the space filled with celebratory fireworks. At this moment, Man Than felt fulfilled. Because he had witnessed the moment Man Tin gave the wedding ring to the most deserving person. The kiss that sealed their lives had changed their entire future. Because at that very moment, Man Than gradually disappeared. After the wedding, Man Tin couldn't reach Man Than by phone. She asked her friends, but no one had seen him. Man Tin sensed something was wrong, so she hurriedly went out to find Man Than. Man Tin called him many times but received no response. Desperate, Man Tin cried and told her husband. Hao Nam tried to remain calm. He gave Man Than's diary to his wife. After Man Tin finished reading the words, she understood that from the first day Man Than returned to the past to meet his mother, he had accepted disappearing to change his destiny. In that dream, Man Tin saw Man Than as a child. Heartbroken, she woke up to find Man Than right in front of her. He coaxed Man Tin to eat tofu pudding. Man Than said that after she finished eating, they would walk down the aisle. But when Man Tin opened the door, she saw a vast ocean. Man Than walked towards the sea and then turned back to greet her. His purpose was to return to change his mother's fate. And now that everything had succeeded, Man Than had to disappear. But he hoped that if there was a next life, he would still be Man Tin's son. Man Than gradually disappeared, leaving only Man Tin on the beach, crying in despair. When Man Tin woke up in the hospital, she immediately ran to find Man Than. Hao Nam tried to reassure his wife, but Man Tin only wanted to know where Man Than was. Hao Nam thought that since Man Than returned to the past, Man Tin's fate had changed. Man Than had disappeared and could not return. Man Tin was in pain and blamed herself for never fulfilling her responsibilities as a mother. The next morning, when Hao Nam woke up, he was worried when he didn't see his wife beside him. Hao Nam rushed to the living room and saw his wife cleaning the house. Man Tin said she had just gone to buy tofu pudding. Only then did she realize that everyone had to queue for a long time to buy that item. Man Tin urged her to eat breakfast, and she also prepared an extra portion to go with it. Man Tin knew that she was an adult and had to be responsible for the baby in her womb. But when Man Tin saw the stain on the table that Man Than had left, she couldn't control her emotions. When Hao Nam arrived at the laboratory, he put forward a hypothesis about time travel. Hao Nam argued that when a person travels through time and changes the past, a new parallel universe is immediately created. However, the events in that person's original universe remain unchanged. Therefore, that person simply disappears from our parallel universe, but still exists in their original world. Meanwhile, Man Tin approached Van Zhang, begging him to date and marry her. Van Zhang remembered that Man Tin had married Hao Nam just 2 days earlier. Moreover, he had previously pursued her only for money. Man Tin agreed to give Van Zhang all the money she had, as long as he agreed to date her. Van Zhang bluntly rejected Man Tin because he now wanted to earn his own money. Man Tin returned to her old high school in despair. She begged her homeroom teacher to let her study again, because if Man Tin continued to cause trouble, Man Than would definitely come back. She just wanted to relive those happy times once more. Meanwhile, Hao Nam couldn't find his wife at home, so he ran around searching. But Man Tin was drowning in grief. Although Man Than had vanished, all memories of him remained vivid in Man Tin's heart. She remembered someone who always loved and guided her. He even sacrificed himself so that her mother could be happy. When Hao Nam saw his wife sitting there in sorrow, he tried to suppress the pain in his heart. He put a coat on Man Tin and hugged her tightly. When Man Tin and Hao Nam arrived home, she noticed that the furniture had started to change. Hao Nam guessed that the countdown was getting closer, but Man Tin didn't believe him. She blamed Hao Nam for throwing away all of Man Than's belongings. Hao Nam begged his wife to be more rational because Man Than still existed in the parallel world. However, Man Tin still refused to accept that. She stubbornly continued to rewrite Man Than's diary entries. Man Tin called Chu Lin and told her not to forget Man Than. Even if everyone else forgot Man Than, Man Tin would definitely still remember him. On the 17th of a month, Man Than appeared before his mother for the first time. At that time, he said that he had overcome difficulties to come here. His goal was to change Man Tin's fate. In this world, only Man Than remembered that she liked tofu pudding, and only he knew that she was allergic to peanuts, so Man Tin couldn't accept it. Man Than disappeared like that. A month later, Chu Lin received a message from Man Tin. However, she couldn't remember who Man Cheng was, and Chu Lin decided to move to another place to live. At the hospital, Dr. Chen guessed that the fetus in Man Xing's womb was developing very well. Man Xing knew that her son would be healthy and resemble her. On the way home, Man Xing looked up at the starry sky. She hugged Man Cheng's diary tightly to her chest. She guessed that he was also watching over her. 5 years later, Man Xing's son had become picky about food, just like his mother. Hao Nam promised to pick up his wife and son after work to go to the beach. Just then, someone commented on Ma Tin's novel. The novel was titled He Crossed Mountains and Rivers to Come. Ma Tin reopened her blank diary, but it was filled with unforgettable memories of Hao Nam's family strolling on the beach, when he informed Ma Tin that his time travel plan had made new progress. Hao Nam thought, "It won't be long before I can create a time-traveling machine?" Man Tin asked if Hao Nam wasn't afraid that their son would go back to the past and tell his mother not to marry his father. But Hao Nam wasn't worried because fate had arranged for them to become a family. Just then, their son bumped into a stranger. This person looked exactly like Man Than. Perhaps the city has always existed in this world, but he is living in a different identity.